It's a catchy song. It's a catchy tune.
It is. It is. What's up, James?
It's an earworm. Not much. What's up, man? How you doing?
Brother, it's been a busy day. It's been a good day though. Lots to talk about. I even made notes, and I don't ever make notes just so I wouldn't forget stuff. So,
Well, here we
uh,
are. Our monthly show. We're a week back because things got hot for you in Texas. You had to skedaddle to Mexico for a while and lay low. You're back.
yeah.
And what's our topic tonight?
Well, so the topic, the main meat and potatoes, is I thought we could go over and do a brief overview and rundown of what Billy did when he escaped the courthouse and what direction he went, and kind of maybe sort through a little bit of the lore as opposed to what's probable and what's possible, and maybe just kind of answer a couple of those questions. So I figured we could kind of focus on that. You got any news to go over first? I've got a couple things, but anything you can think of?
No, my book is out now. I think we've talked a little bit about that, and it's selling. And just want to remind folks, I don't think we really touched on it very deeply, that all proceeds from that go to getting Azariah Wild a headstone and towards getting us there for a placement ceremony. So, um,
Yes.
so just wanted to put that out there, that that's where all the sales money goes. So
Yep.
I'm not being funded by Big History here.
I forgot about Big History, man. How are those guys? That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, book is flying off the shelf. I mean, we're in like the fourth or fifth, reprint. I mean, it's just we can't keep it stocked. So good work, James. It's
Oh, we've
but
sold
yeah,
tens of copies.
tens of copies. Yes, I've bought like 9, and I sent you one. It's it's doing good. It's such a valuable piece of kid history. So, and again, I've got we'll have quite a few copies for you to sign down in Lincoln Days too, for anybody that's waiting for an autographed copy. Which brings me to the main news I wanted to cover. Lincoln Days coming up. So I know we've been getting lit up by a lot of folks that are wanting to buy plane tickets and want more information, and that's totally understandable. So as of right now, I believe that the welcome packet / whatever you want to call it, with all the goodies for the people that bought tickets, will be mailed out probably the middle of this week coming up. Included in that welcome packet will be your digital ticket and, of course, the welcome information, instructions, what to bring, what to do, what to expect, and also will include the digital maps that Mr. Delacote has so awesomely put together, showing really good detailed directions to a variety of sites that hopefully everybody can get a chance to hit up and see while we're down there. So that'll be a really cool thing, and I'm excited for everybody to get that this week. Originally, we were going to send it out a couple weeks before, but I think we're about 6 weeks out right now, so I think we'll go ahead and send that out now. I know a lot of people are getting antsy and wanting to get their hands on some stuff. So yeah, expect that the middle of this week. We'll have the complete lineup of events will be listed out, and hopefully that'll kind of answer everybody's questions. Do you have something, James?
I also want to add that Delacote's been designing some very cool merch for the shops for both the Coalition and Chasing Billy. So anybody can get the newly designed Chasing Billy and Coalition swag.
Yes,
They're very, very good stuff.
Very good stuff.
And Dean, yeah, thank you so much, Dean. It means a lot. That's awesome. Appreciate it.
Yes. Yeah, Dean's talked to Dean the other day. Hopefully he'll be able to make it to Lincoln Days. I know that's he's got some stuff going on, but hopefully that'll work out, because sure like to drink a beer with him there. Man, I'm excited for it. We're getting close, man. I know hopefully everybody that's watching now saw our pre-recorded episode with Brandon. I guess we released that last night. Kind of outlined the tour that he's going to do for everyone and what to expect for that. So yeah, fun stuff coming up, man. Got your plane ticket yet, James? No, you're driving. Never mind.
Yeah, I'm driving the whole way. Look at that beautiful merch.
Amazing. Yep, I'm gonna do the puzzle when winter gets here. That's what I do when it gets cold. So
yeah, it'd be cool to have one at the convention. Sit around the Ellis House living room, doing the puzzle.
Yeah, I know. We'll have to get Amy one. I'm sure I can see her doing that. But yeah, any other news, James, before we kick this off? And
yeah, let's ride out of Lincoln and see where Billy goes.
Let's do it. So yeah, this is one topic that I think gets brought up a lot. A lot of people are curious about it. I never, until I stopped and thought, well, let's dig into it a little bit and let's do a show on it. I never, I guess, not gave it a lot of thought. I mean, I did somewhat, when I covered kind of what Poe talked about in his book, and I went over, what he referenced and stuff. But I kind of learned when I stopped and I wanted to look at all the various accounts and I wanted to kind of see, what's the most plausible, what's the most likely, what are the different versions. And we really have, and I'm going to run them through in my head right now, but we really have 4 different accounts of what Billy did from the time that he saddled up and rode, see what would have been west out of Lincoln. Yes, west out of Lincoln, from the courthouse towards Capitan. So, and that's kind of one of the only things I think we can say for certainty is he did ride west. As soon as he left the courthouse, went west towards Pepin's house. And then those familiar with that area up towards the Capitan Gap, about 2 miles up. So that is one thing.
So he did not ride through the town east. So the courthouse is on the far west side of town, and he just took off right out of Lincoln.
Right, correct. Yeah, and I guess sometimes I forget that if you haven't been to Lincoln, that is kind of important to put that context in, because the courthouse.
It's confusing because when people draw a lot of the maps, the courthouse is on the east side, the right, as you're looking at it. And so I know in my head for the longest time, it feels weird to say that the courthouse is on the west side. I don't know why it's just flipped around.
It is. It's hard for me to even get it's because you're right. All the maps kind of contradict that or show it from the opposite perspective. But yeah, so I think, in my opinion, and again, there is some speculation in this, of course, because we just don't know for sure. But let's look real quick at kind of the varying accounts and kind of see what makes most sense. So again, we know for certain, based on the handful of witnesses that were in Lincoln at the time, that he did ride west out of town. He got Goss to saddle on the horse, got kicked off, got back on, finally made his way out. One of the better accounts that we have of kind of, in my thought about is as far as what Billy did leaving, was in a Frontier Times issue in, I think, 1936. It talks about the escape of Billy the Kid. I think it's Facts Regarding the Escape of Billy the Kid, I believe what it's called. And it does a lot of good firsthand interviews with a handful of the locals that were there at that time. So according to that, he stopped at a variety or a couple of Hispanic farms on the way west out of town. And then it lists that he stopped at Jesus Padilla's place, which I mentioned that one because, you and I have both been to that rock house. I think when we went there, we were maybe a little misled as far as what took place at the house, but I think it's still safe to say that Billy did stop at that house, and that house is on the south side of the Capitan Mountains, about 2 miles west of Lincoln. So we know Billy stopped there for a short time period, and then from there, he crossed the Capitan Gap, went over the mountains or through the mountains, however you want to say it, and he was at Eugenio Salazar's family's home for a couple days, and that's where, again, there's a slight bit of speculation, but that's where most likely the shackles were removed. But at the very least, that's where he spent 2 or 3 days, laying low and hiding out. So in my thoughts, and we're going to go off of Eugenio Salazar's interview with Haley also, that kind of substantiates that.
You said this was in the Frontier Times. Who wrote the article?
I don't know off the top of my head. We'll find out. We
So,
can post. I have a digital copy of it. Maybe we can put it up on Chasing Billy when we get done.
but this is an author. Whoever wrote that article is detailing. I'm just wondering where they got their information, because this is like one of the first sources that say
Yeah.
he went to Padilla home, he went to the Salazar
Right.
home.
Right.
This is probably one of the first accounts of that outside of
Outside of
the
papers, I think
claims
so.
themselves.
No, I agree. So, and then what I think is, let's go over this real quick, and then we've got a map we can throw up, and then we'll kind of talk about. Well, we'll do it now. That'll work. So yeah, let's look at this real quick. I like it. So as you can see, Lincoln in the center of the map. Of course, we know that's where Billy escaped from. And then if you want to go up, we know from Lincoln, we went to number 1, which is probably going to be a rough location of the Padilla Ranch. It's probably a little south of that, but the purpose of this map is not to get the geographic location specific. It's just simply to give people an idea of the direction of his travel. From there, we know he went up to number 2, which would have been Eugenio Salazar's family's place, and spent several days there. So after that, in my thought process, we'll zoom back out. In my thought process, after he leaves there, I think that's where we need to kind of start deciphering and deciding what we want to believe and what we think is possible. So you have Barney Mason, who claimed, I think it was in the Santa Fe New Mexican, that he claimed that he tailed Billy for a short time after his escape, which I find a little hard to believe, but according to, I mean, given Mason's character and what he thought of the kid, I don't know how plausible that is. And I think he would have had to have been in Lincoln at the time for that to happen. I don't know that I buy that. But according to Mason, in his interview with the paper, after leaving Salazar's place, he said that Billy went south down to the Newcomb cow camp. And that's going to be where number 3 is, right off the Rio Feliz. Now, this map doesn't show it.
That's quite a ways.
That's quite a ways. That's a really long ways. That's, 2-day ride on horseback. Now, to be fair, the Rio Feliz actually runs all the way through and actually ran through where Tunstall's ranch was at the time, and the Choza and all that. So the 3 could have been closer, to the left by the 5. We just indicated it there to show where the Rio Feliz was. And according to Mason, he doesn't give any further details about Billy's travel direction, other than he went south. And then I think he concluded it by saying before he went back north to Fort Sumner. So again, this seems really sketchy to me, because I just don't know why Mason would follow the kid like that. And one, the kid not realize he was being tailed in that wide open country. And what was his point? Like, why? Garrett and Poe don't mention anything in their accounts about Mason tipping them off that this is the direction that Billy went. So I kind of personally find that a little hard to swallow. But the interesting thing about that is, let's just say, for argument's sake, if Barney Mason is telling the truth and he did go back south to that location somewhere along the Rio Feliz, that would make it possible, I guess, and possible is the key word here, for the other 2 accounts. So if you read John Meadows' book, he details that Billy came and saw him down 4 miles south of where present day Elk is, which is going to be give or take about where number 4 is right there. Again, this is not intended to be specifically geographically pinpoint, but about where number 4 is. And then we also have another account from Martin Chavez, who lived about where number 5 was, and that's in Pachio. And he said that Billy stopped and saw him before he went north to Fort Sumner. So we have, what is that? 3, 4? We have 4 different accounts right now of people saying that Billy spent time with them before going to Fort Sumner. So I guess we just really have to ask ourselves, is that possible? Is that probable? Given Billy's the desperation he was going through at the time, would he have, knowing he was all the way as far north as where that number 2 is at Las Tablas, would he have then gone all the way south down to the Feliz River? To me, it just doesn't make any sense. It defies logic. And if you think about it, everybody that referenced Billy and talked to Billy and tried to sway Billy, said that Billy wanted to get north because he had a girl, and we knew that most likely
Yeah.
that was Paulita. So, I mean, let's put ourselves in the guy mentality here for a minute. He hasn't seen Paulita since what, December of 1880, when they shared the lover's kiss.
And this is a girl he's shared letters with in
Yes,
jail.
yes, and Messiah shared letters with. I mean, the sheriff and Messiah tipped off Garrett, hey, he's got a sweetheart up there. We know Billy wants to get north. We know it's been a lot of lonely nights in jail, if we know what I mean. We know Billy's probably hasn't had any good loving in a while. Billy, I'm sure, I'm certain, wants to get north to see Paulita. So why would he go from basically where number 2 is on that map? And keep in mind, Fort Sumner is north, just north of the Lincoln line.
Fort Sumner's right here.
Yep. So why would Billy, at number 2, backtrack, basically going in the vicinity of Lincoln, where he knows it's a hotbed? He just killed 2 deputies. He knows Garrett's going to come around. Why would he backtrack through all of that territory to go to one, if you want to listen to Barney Mason, to go to Newcomb's cow camp? Like, what's the point? The only thing I can assume is that's the same John Newcomb that was involved with that set on, I believe, Tunstall's what's the word I'm looking for? Inquiry for his at his death. I know Newcomb set on that.
I believe Newcomb even arranged or took himself. He took Tunstall's body back to Lincoln.
Yes, and Newcomb's actual ranch is right there about where the split is. You see where Copeland's ranch is, and then you go right to the split where Rio is. Newcomb had a ranch which was right. Yeah, continue going left of number 5. Newcomb had a ranch over there, further over, because remember, when they picked up Tunstall's body, they loaded it on the back of a mule, took it down to his ranch, maybe changed positioning or whatnot, maybe tidied up the body, and then they went on into Lincoln. So either way, I just don't know why Billy would have risked all of that to go down all the way as far south as he did, just to come back all the way. And let's be honest, and this may ruffle some feathers, but John Meadows and Billy have a great relationship, according to John Meadows. John Meadows never really comes into play into Billy's life and times by anybody other than John Meadows. And I'm not saying, obviously, I think they knew each other, but I don't think they were such amazing friends that nobody noticed how awesome their friendship was but John Meadows. And then you have Martin Chavez, which, again, according to his account, him and Billy were great friends, and they very well may have been. But, I think Billy demonstrated with the death of Charlie and Tom that while he may have friends, he's also can get over it and move on it very quickly. So it defies logic. It defies human nature. It defies common sense for Billy to backtrack all that way just to stop and tell those 2 people goodbye. I don't buy it. I personally, and again, this is my opinion, anybody can look at a map and put 2 and 2 together. It doesn't make any sense to me why he would want to do that. I think sometimes I feel like we put too much weight on family lore and legend. And, it's real easy to say whatever you want 30 years afterwards. So as everybody can see from the map, everybody can form their own opinion. I don't believe that Billy went back south. It doesn't make any sense. I think he got north as quick as he possibly could. For the same reason that probably you and I would go north. That's where our girl is, and that's where safety is. Why in God's name would I take a 2-day, 4 or 5-day round trip ride to go south to say goodbye to some guys? That's I don't know. That's just my opinion. I don't buy it. So yeah.
How do we know that Billy was writing? How do we know that Paulita had letters going to Billy when he was in, I think, Messiah, wasn't it?
Yeah. His name's going to escape me, but the sheriff of Donna Ana County recorded it and intercepted several letters and even tipped off Garrett. I want to say after Billy's escape. In fact, I'm certain after Billy's escape, he wrote to Garrett. The source for that, when I first came across that information, the source for that was the biography on Walter Noble Burns. And I know in that book, it lists its original source. I just don't remember what it is off the top of my head. But yeah, I feel like I feel like that's fairly good information that Billy wanted to go
Mm.
north. I mean, I would have wanted to go north. Why go south? That doesn't make any sense. So I don't know. Hopefully that map will kind of give everybody at least a good perspective that of what the train was like, and maybe why it just didn't make sense, and why probably Meadows and Chavez's accounts of Billy, stopping by to see them and recounting the escape. I just don't buy it. That's just me. And the funny thing is, to muddy the waters even more, is we didn't even talk about Paco Anaya's account of Billy's escape in the book I Buried Billy, where Paco says Billy gets up to Fort Sumner and tells him all about the escape. Not only the escape, but which is ridiculous, about Billy putting a knife up his booty and and all that sort of stuff. But
Unbelievable.
I know it's just so odd. Like, I don't think that's how that works, but either way. But then even the account of how Billy gets from how Billy, according to Paco, how Billy gets from Fort Sumner, I'm sorry, from Lincoln up north, doesn't even match up with Meadows or Martin Chavez's accounts. So I don't know. Only thing I can say about all of it is they all can't be telling the truth. Somebody has to be lying, and I think we just have to use common sense to
Okay.
figure out what makes sense.
So your position is he escapes from Lincoln and just goes straight via Padilla and Salazar to Fort Sumner.
I think so. Yes.
Uh,
Geographically, as far as line of sight, it makes sense. I think those would have been some of the immediate people that he was obviously very comfortable with. And one of the only things that Paco gets remotely close is he does reference Billy stopping at a home, but he gets the name wrong. I think he calls it Friendsquez. I don't know. My Spanish is just
yeah,
lovely.
I remember that. Yeah.
But yeah, and then the author corrects it and says he meant Salazar, but the author that edited that manuscript doesn't explain why he meant that. But the
Right.
location that Paco gives matches really close with the Padilla Rock House. So, I mean, that could be, they could have been referencing the same, so that could be it.
Right.
But after that, Paco's version is all over the place. Billy goes to another local farmer and then tells them to go back into Lincoln and basically spy on things and run intel for him. And this was after he went up to Salazar's, which geographically doesn't make sense, and the times don't match up. And so I don't know. That's the same dilemma with everything that Paco talks about, is you just have to decide, is he just completely out of his mind, or is he the only one that knows what's really going on?
So my question is, it's what, roughly 2.5 months between his escape and his death, something like that. Are these destinations he could have gone to during that time, and perhaps the storytellers like Martin and John Meadows kind of just get it confused, or just kind of speak vaguely, like, hey, after his escape he came here, but they didn't necessarily mean immediately? Could he have gone there in say early June and stopped off and talked to him?
I mean, time in 2.5 months, obviously time would have allowed for that to happen. But if you look at the specifics, and obviously I don't have them off the top of my head, but if you look at the specifics of how Meadows and Martin talk, they make it very clear that Billy had just escaped. I believe Meadows even gives a time frame, like Billy said, night before last he did this, etc. So I mean, they kind of paint themselves into that corner with that as well, because time wise, he could have gone to Fort Sumner, got bored, came back down. That the time would have certainly allowed for that. But again, they paint themselves in a corner, because they specifically talk about how they list within a day or two Billy had just done this and that. So I don't think that's the case. And even at that, had they not done that, again, you still have to ask, why would he go up to Fort Sumner, where he was safe and fed and had his girl and all that, just to ride back down there through? I mean, Lincoln County had to have been a horribly dangerous place for him, especially once you get in around the mountains and the valleys, around Lincoln and whatnot. So why ride right through the middle of that? again, just to say hi to some friends that, in my personal opinion, he probably wasn't that good of friends with to begin with.
Mm.
I don't know.
Right.
The
Well,
dog don't hunt.
let's talk about the horse. I want to know about the horse. Do you think he sent it back, or do you think it got away from him and went back?
I just think it got away from him. I mean, I know everybody likes to say what a great guy Billy was, and I don't. I mean, there's numerous accounts that confirm that he was great to his friends. Ish. I mean, we could argue that he pushed Charlie out the door after he got shot, but you know, Billy's desperate enough to kill his two guards, and commit, arguably one of the most daring escapes in American West history. And he's going to risk all that and start walking on foot just so he can send a horse back. No. I mean, come on. That terrain is not easy terrain. It's no, who wants to walk? Why would you send a horse back just because you told Billy Burt that you'd send his horse back? No, I think that's dumb. I've never bought that. I think the horse just got away from him. And I want to say there's probably a couple accounts out there that say the horse got away. He didn't send it back, but you know how it goes. You
Right.
start reading so many accounts, and I mean, there's varying accounts in what's the book? They Knew Billy the Kid. That's got a
Yeah.
whole lot of interviews, and there's stuff in there that's, you start reading so many things that are so far fetched, you don't really know what the truth is from fiction. So, but no, I don't think he sent the horse back.
I think even Jesus Silva said that the horse got away from him, and Billy had to walk a large portion of it.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I mean, you would never just let the horse go out of good faith and risk the elements, getting eaten by a freaking mountain lion, starving to death, dehydration. I mean, you're really hindering yourself in that territory, especially when you're hot on the heel. When the law is hot on your heels, at least he thinks. Most wanted man in the country. No, he didn't send the damn
Yeah.
horse back. That's stupid. That's my thoughts.
Do you know how long it would have taken Billy to ride from Lincoln or from the Salazar place to Fort Sumner?
Right. Rough guess here. You can cover 30, 40 miles a day if you're booking it. That's 100. I mean, 3-4 day trip probably. And again, that's just spitballing. It is a 2-hour drive, so I'll let people do the math from there. But yeah, I'd say a 3 or 4 day trip. If you want to listen to, which gives me some implications that he was hauling ass. If you listen to Potter's account in his book, and I talk about it in the Poe book, he references how the horse that Billy rode all the way up to Fort Sumner, I guess he rode it so hard it was windbroken. And I didn't really know what that term meant. I had to ask some horse people, but basically he rode the horse so hard that the horse was basically never the same. So that tells me he was covering some ground. I mean, 60, 70 miles a day maybe is not unrealistic. So, I don't think it would have taken him terribly long, is my thoughts. And that's a lot of open ground.
Timothy wanted to know if there was an active posse after him, and how long was the response? I know that Pat was in White Oaks at the time on April 28th when he escaped. How long did it take him to get back there and to organize any kind of party to go after him, if they even did?
Yeah, so they said, let's see, what was it? The fort. I'm trying to think of the dates now. Sorry, I was getting confused with the date he's dead. So we know that Garrett said that he got back the next day. So I think he received word that evening from the postmaster in Fort Stanton. The guy's name escapes me, but the postmaster in Fort Stanton came over to White Oaks, told him about it. He got back to Lincoln the very next day. So he would have been in Lincoln the following day. There's certainly a multitude of accounts. I think they probably originated from Garrett's book, if I recall, that said that there were numerous posses and they combed the area, et cetera, et cetera. But I've never seen anything to substantiate that. I've never seen any interviews with anybody that was a member of any of those posses. My educated guess is I don't think there was anything. I mean, Garrett was pretty clear that he was buying his time. David Thomas did a really interesting article and said that the reason that Garrett was slow playing is because he had just had a child and he needed to be home, which, I mean, I guess it makes sense. So no, I've never seen anything to support that there were any immediate manhunts out on him, which I think makes Barney Mason's story stupid. I mean, Barney Mason, it seemed to have had somewhat of a cowardly vibe to him, so I don't know why he would have taken it upon himself, had he even been in Lincoln at the time, to trail the kid all over New Mexico. That just sounds like a little bit of hero worshiping to me. But so yeah, I don't really buy that either.
A lot of tall tales from all these folks after the fact, a generation later.
I know. And that's why you just never really know what's true. I think that's just why you just have to look at the evidence that's before you. That's why, I like that map so well, because I don't know, when you look at the map and you just put 2 and 2 together, it just doesn't make any sense. Right. Another interesting aspect to this, and we don't know when, like if it was, I think he would have gone to Fort Sumner first, but you have Doc Scurlock's second son, John Joshua Scurlock, that claims that he was born, I think, May 21st, 1881. So he claims that Billy came over to Tascosa to his dad, Doc Scurlock's house in Tascosa, or certainly in the vicinity, and, visited with his dad. And it was like a family story that, hey, Billy the Kid held me, because he claimed that Billy the Kid held him as an infant. And of course said his dad, Doc, tried to convince Billy that, hey, you need to go to Old Mexico or go north or whatever. And that he said that Billy said he couldn't do it because he had to go back to Fort Sumner for a girl, which again supports the Paulita narrative. So, and of course, Tascosa, there's Fort Sumner right there. Tascosa is due right 2 to 3 day ride probably into the panhandle of Texas, north of where I'm at. So did Billy really go over to Tascosa during that 3-month time period? Who knows? But, kind of like you and I have talked in private, if we're going to believe Billy Matthews, or if we're going to believe Martin Chavez, or if we're going to believe Paco, then we have to believe this. I think, and that's where I think a lot of historians, or just people in general that find this stuff interesting, I think that's where they go wrong, is they start cherry picking what sort of family lore they want to buy into, which I think is a mistake. Some of it's true, some of it's false, but too many times you just see a blanket stamp. This is true because they're a good guy, or they wouldn't lie, or whatever. And I think we just have to look at that with a grain of salt.
Well, I even think that the Doc story is a little more plausible, given that it's out of the way of Lincoln and the hot zone, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly.
It would make even more sense. But I mean, just going over the distance here, immediately escaping Lincoln, going this way, so you're already going in a direction that's clearly away from Lincoln, but in a northerly, trajectory.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I don't see that he's going to be like, okay, cool, that was crazy. Finally got my shackles off. Just going to roll down here, see what's happening here. I'm going to go down here. I mean, even the sequence is kind of weird.
Yeah. And again, we don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, if you want to believe all of them, then I guess he would have, because Mason never mentioned going by Meadows or Martin's place. He only mentioned going down to Newcomb's cow camp. But then he also said from there he just went back north to Fort Sumner. So yeah, it's hard to say. I don't know. 3, 4, and 5 could be in different sequence in theory. If
right.
But the funny thing is all or Martin and Meadows both said when he left them, he was going to Fort Sumner. So,
well, and I will say this, Brad.
Yes, maybe.
Right. Brad says could have been lost, but there is another thing we could consider, and that's the fact that we don't know what all trails there were at the time, especially back roads, so to speak.
Right.
That I think about when Billy was talking to Wallace and he was giving Wallace advice on how to catch these rustlers, and he said, "Forgive me for being presumptive, but I may know a thing or two about avoiding soldiers more than you." And
Right.
so, as paranoid as he is, maybe there are trails and back roads and roads that aren't commonly used that he
Yeah.
knows he can take down this way and be safer, even though it's a longer journey, and then travel up somehow to Sumner. It's just, you know,
Yeah.
we have no idea. So there are things where when we're discussing history, there are always things we don't know and
Yeah.
contexts that we don't know. And it's a good thing to just be like, here's what I think happened, here's
Hmm.
why. But
Yeah.
that's not certainly not something that we're saying this definitely happened and these guys definitely aren't telling the truth and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Absolutely. I don't know because I mean, Meadows, by all accounts, and his book is fascinating, and I think there's a lot of stuff in his book that does check out. So
Oh yeah.
I, yeah, I mean, it's a great book. Personally, I found a little bit more of his interactions with Garrett and Pat Coughlin and all that. I think that's probably more of the stuff that I would rely a little bit more heavily on. But and Martin Chavez also seemed to be an outstanding, good dude. Um, but again, they can't all be telling the truth is the problem. So, you know, who's guilty of spinning a tall tale? I don't know. um, all I do in my thought process is just do what we've done. Look at the map and try to decide what makes sense. Um,
Right.
I've got a couple projects in the back of my head coming up, writing projects that are going to really focus on this. And my approach will most likely be kind of what we said. I think he went north. I think he stopped at point A and point B, and I think he continued north and just say, hey, this is why I believe this. And I think as honest historians, that's all we can do. Because you're right, to speak in certainties is not being academically honest because we just don't know. But
Yeah.
I think we can use good common sense and then let the reader decide what they think from there. I think that's the best way to present this stuff.
Yeah. Definitely. Is there anything else you want to add to the discussion? Have you know, covered the
No,
ground you set out to cover?
yeah, like I said, I just wanted to kind of go over that. And I don't actually only gone over that in my head too, kind of writing, thinking about this show and what I want to discuss. So it's kind of good just to talk it out in talk it out amongst friends because it helps, or organize it a little bit better. So yeah, I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
gonna see what everybody else thinks. So, if I'm missing something, if anybody can come up with any other accounts of where he might have been or why, um, I'd love to know what it is. And I'll find that article that references his escape path from that Frontier Times. I've got it in my files, and let's get a digital copy up for everyone.
You know what I think would be cool is the live chat disappears once the show's over. It would be cool if everybody with kind of an interest in this subject would leave what they think he did and whether those accounts are trustworthy in the comments so we can kind of keep a finger on the pulse of what the community thinks about this because this is one of those
Absolutely.
unexplored sections of the kid's life.
Yeah.
We just kind of it's
Right.
one of those vague mist enshrouded
It
timelines in our heads when we're talking about it, so it's good to flesh
it
out a
is.
little bit.
It is. There's, it's weird because there's always those certain times in the kid's life that you just kind of skim over. At least I do, and you don't really stop and think about it. Even Nolan, his book West of Billy the Kid, arguably the best book out there on, and he covers it in like three sentences. Like there's no coverage to it. And there's a lot of information out there. Probably a lot of it bad, obviously. But I think it deserves, and I've by no means done a deep dive into it. This was just kind of something that you
Yeah.
and I discussed the other day and thought, hey, let's talk about that because it would be fun too. So I think it does deserve a deeper dive. So yeah, we've got a handful of guys, y'all know who you are, that y'all email us after shows and tell us, hey, what about this? What about that? If y'all think of something, come up with better sources or common sense or logic or anything else, let us know because again, this is going to be a deeper project of ours moving forward, I think.
Uh, Mario has a really good question about Wallace that if we have time after, I know, Josh, you got to take off fairly quickly. I'll stick around and talk a little bit about, or if we finish early, we can both talk about it. But it's
Sure.
what made Billy choose the day he did to escape. Why didn't he continue to wait for
Yeah.
Wallace's response? His hanging date was May 13th, I believe. So he did have a few, a little bit more time. We'll talk
Right.
about it if we have time.
Yeah, it's an interesting
For
topic.
now, we'll move on to our next segment, which is the Billy Books section. And that is brought to you by the Ash Upton Academy. The finest literature, the finest textbooks, the finest education. For the finest leading voice in education, look no further than Ash. And I'll stop right there. I chose the book today, and this is going to be a little different because it is not a nonfiction history book. This is actually a novel.
Mm-hmm.
And, there are a lot of Billy novels out there. And to be transparent, I haven't read many of them. Mainly the reason is because I want to write a novel myself. It's why I started researching Billy. I'm a writer, aspiring fiction writer more than I am a historian. So I wanted to steer clear of that and not mix visions. But the other one is just they're not very good a lot of times. And for one, I love The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford, the film with Brad Pitt. I tried to read the book about the kid by the same author. It's just I'm not going to talk about what you think about that movie, man. We're all clear that you're not a fan. We'll we'll leave it where it is. But I tried to read that same author's the book that movie's based on. He wrote one about Billy the Kid, and I just couldn't get into it. And someday maybe I will, but who knows? But this book I want to talk about now is it's just called Billy in parentheses the Kid. It's by Peter Meach, and it's not a massive book. It's a very swift read. It's just a really nice book, and I think a lot of people who are into brushy might like it as well, because this book is about Billy the Kid in the 1920s, and it's about he survived that night in 1881, maybe. It's centered around an old timer, and he lives in Colorado, and everybody knows he claims to be Billy the Kid, or most people do, and they kind of humor him. And he's a charming old man who goes around. He plays guitar. He has a band, and he just goes around town. He's kind of got a crush on this lady at his apartment complex. It's just a charming old man, and you get to wondering through his inner dialogue and through his actions with everybody if he really is Billy or if he's insane. And you never quite know. I think the cool thing about this story is it never makes a declaration one way or the other. It kind of leaves it up to you to wonder if he was or was not Billy, but he was involved with some folks who come to help him that makes you wonder. And if you're looking for good Billy entertainment that's not, Gone with the Wind length or Hemingway, heavy, that's going to stick with you in some somber fashion, this is great. This is a very entertaining book. If you're familiar with Billy lore and know the Billy story, you're going to see a lot of things that resonate with you. And it's also, when you finish the book, you're just left with this feeling of, it's just a good feeling. I remember reading The Winter of Our Discontent by John Steinbeck, and when I finished it, I had that same vibe that I had reading this one. It was just a short, complete, satisfactory story, and you're able to be entertained and enjoy it and walk away from it. So that was my pick this month, and I don't know. You haven't read it yet, have you, Josh?
No, I did buy it just the other day when we discussed you wanting to do this one. So I'm anxious to read it because like you, I don't read a lot of Billy novels, but sometimes it is
Yeah.
just it's fun to just read something for the enjoyment of it and not because you're trying to learn something. So,
Right. Yeah.
yeah,
And that's the writer, Peter Meach. He's a writer, director, and producer in television and film. And yeah, he did a great job with this, I think. Like you said, you're not always needing to tax your brain with facts and figures, and
yeah,
you just want to kick back and relax, but you still want to do that within the context of Billy.
absolutely. I do have a few go-tos for that. So, well, great. Thanks for that, man. Hopefully everybody can pick that
Yeah.
up. And we'll talk about it next. I'll try to read it before the next live show, and we'll discuss it.
Yeah, we'll definitely come back to it. And then I think I got to get my full screen off here. Our next segment, I believe, is Billy Country, right? Or is it Billy?
We can do
It's Billy Photos. I knew it. Furlong Photography. What's so funny?
We should be better at this by now.
No way, man. It's the seat of your pants quality that keeps the masses coming back.
Yeah, something like that. What picture are we gonna talk about, James? I want to see it because I don't even know.
Was I supposed to pick the picture?
Ah, damn it. We can talk about the
this
one
is our
behind
Billy
me
picture segment, guys. This is everybody's favorite segment. Everybody loves talking about Billy pictures. It's what we're all here for, to get in arguments over whether someone's Billy or not. This is the first Billy photo that I saw in my foray into the Billy world where I thought, man, maybe there's something to this. A lot of people disagree with me, and a lot of people, frankly, I haven't found many that agree with me. But I do think that it has been altered and that there's a good reason to give it some thought. And it is this one, this amazing, mysterious photo. Now, I want to know what everybody thinks, but the first thing that caught my eye about it was this doesn't look like the suit jacket fits him. It looks like it was like, like when you go to a fancy restaurant and you don't have a suit jacket and they're like, we got one for you in the closet. It kind of looks like they just threw it on him.
Right.
What's going on down here on our right, on his left hand? The sleeve is shoved up. It looks kind of tattered. On his right hand, it's like flopping over. It's bunched up there. It, honest to God, looks to me like he's got shackles on. Invisible shackles. And I'm not going to get conspiracy crazy on you here, but if you look at his waistband, where it meets his trousers, I just wanted to say trousers, but if you look at the waistband area here, the color of that shirt under the vest, it doesn't look right. It looks altered. It looks tampered with. And honestly, what is he wearing under the vest? Because up top it's a white shirt under the vest, and down here there's just this black area. So it looks a lot to me like someone took a picture of this guy with shackles on, and then in some 19th century way photoshopped the shackles out. Now, I know that sounds funny, but I did do kind of a deep dive into this a couple years ago and found many examples and many techniques that photographers used back then to fix blemishes, to edit stuff out. They would use charcoal and certain chemicals, and it was pretty wild. And so, looking at his right, it looks like a shackle is possibly under the sleeve on his right hand, and it looks like maybe they just, I don't know what they did on the left, but it's just such a curious setup that it just intrigues me. And then if you look at his forehead, clearly he's gotten some sun.
Yeah.
But he's worn a hat. So there's clearly a hat tan line there.
Yeah.
Does he look too tall for Billy? Does he look, I don't know. I really don't know, but I've always been intrigued by this. And then when we came across that other controversial picture,
Mm-hmm.
I had to
Yeah.
compare the two, and I'm like, yeah, really, that could be like the same guy, just
Yeah.
how many
Yep.
years apart? 4 years, 5 years apart? I mean,
Weird.
that's interesting.
You know,
I thought that was pretty
and you
cool.
mentioned how, no, and I've seen that one. It's I mean, I think it's got as much promise as the other ones that lack the, you know, the provenance that we need to make them solid. I think you know, I don't think the height is too far off. You know, again, people have this misconception that Billy was this little bitty runt guy. I don't know if it's just because the kid was embedded in his title, but you know, most accounts put him 135 pounds, 5'7", 5'8". That's very normal for the day. So, you know, this guy could be 5'8". So I wouldn't discredit it. You know, just off of that.
Well, here's another thing too. It well, first off, to answer Honeybee, we don't know. Like, I have not found one bit of information on this photo. I have no idea where it came from. It's been floating around for as long as I've been in the game, since like 2020, 2021. I've not been able to find one bit of info on him. But the thing to consider is that time that Cosgrove came out and bought Billy
Suits.
and
Yeah.
Tom and the other Billy a set of new clothes, said he wanted to see him off in style, would have been a great time to take a picture. And these suits aren't tailored to them. You know, they didn't do up the measurements, so obviously they're not going to fit properly. So could this have been taken at the blacksmith shop? Could this have been taken in Las Vegas when they got there from Stinking Springs? And
It almost looks like a tent
how
background
lost and
to
forgotten.
me, but
Right. Yeah, it does. It looks very temporary.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting, but yeah, obviously some folks will think it's Billy, some will not.
Sure.
Who knows? But this is just one that I've always been interested in. This was actually the first photo that uh, kind of began my friendship with our social media manager and team member, Mel Hubner. We were talking about this, and that's how we became friends on Facebook. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, this pick goes back, and I've always kind of kept it near as a possibility.
It's a fun picture. I mean, there's a lot to speculate
Oh,
about, so I can definitely see
Jeffrey
why.
Burton, thanks for that piece of info. That's interesting. Even more so if it came from Messia, like, that's interesting. At least it didn't come from like a North Carolina flea market or something, you know?
Or Oregon. Yeah, that is good. Yeah, I didn't know that at all. So good to know. Thank you. That's why this is good to
Yeah,
do. Learn shit.
absolutely. Well,
Uh,
what do you think, Josh? Do you got to run?
no, I got like 5 minutes left. So you want to do a quick Billy the Kid Country and leave
Let's
folks
roll that beautiful Billy the Kid country footage.
beautiful bean footage. Let's do it.
That's a fine segment roll.
That is a good one. You know, and I dropped the ball too. I was supposed to like come out with some sort of really impressive intro, and I've still got nothing. You know, for the sake of brevity, let's talk about the site. I wanted, and this one was really cool. This one's the closest site to where I live, so that's kind of why I've always liked it. So I went out about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, and tracked down the original LX Ranch location. Now, you can get on Google right now and Google where's the LX Ranch, and the current ranch is still there, and it's still a functioning ranch. I've been on it. I know the foreman there. Beautiful ranch. But the one that's there now, I believe it became the main headquarters in like 1908, 1910, if I'm not mistaken. That is not the LX Ranch that Billy visited, where Charlie Siringo is at, where he had his confrontation with Moore. That LX Ranch is on the north side of the Canadian River, right where this map shows it. So it's fairly easy to get to in the fact that you don't have to go far. You actually take Highway 287 north out of Amarillo. And right when, if anybody's familiar with Amarillo or lives here or comes and hangs out here, we've got right where the Canadian River crosses the highway is basically where all the rednecks go with their four-wheelers, and they go mudding and drinking beer. And, when I worked at the sheriff's department, I spent a little bit of time going up there because you can imagine on a Friday night, it gets a little rowdy. But yeah, right just north of the Canadian River, about a mile or so off the highway where you see that star is the original LX Ranch. You can kind of see in those photographs at the bottom of the map, the top one, and again, we're kind of far out. I don't know if we're able to zoom in this format or not, but the top one is the only photo of the LX that we had during Billy's time. And then the bottom photograph underneath it was taken by me when I was over there. So yeah, this is the only known photograph we have of the LX, the original LX. And then this came courtesy of the Panhandle Plains Museum. I went down there and they actually had a good copy of it here. And then switch over, if you can, to the other photograph that I took, if we have that on file. And you can kind of see, it's kind of hard to line up the landscape and the hills in the background, just because the cottonwood trees, I believe, that run through there now kind of obscure that a little bit. But basically on that lower image, you can actually see the elevation rise like you see in the original photograph. And the ranch house that you see on the left side of the original photograph, actually, you can see the plateau where the land levels off at in my photograph. And when you stand there, it all matches up beautifully. So yeah, at this location, of course, Billy went there, sold some cattle there, had his confrontation with their foreman Moore at the time there. After Billy and the Regulators got booted out of Tascosa for crashing Romero's dance hall with pistols, they kind of got ran out of town. They went back to the LX and camped out there for a few weeks in those cottonwood trees, which you see in my photo. This is actually a photograph, or I'm sorry, an illustration that Mel did for me for some future publications coming up, based off of that image that we saw just a little bit ago, that, like I said, is the only existing image of the LX. So everybody's probably
There's
seen
nothing in that. There's nothing in that picture that doesn't look like it took hours to draw all the detail with the grass, the rock walls, the trees.
Yep. and Mel's such a perfectionist that if I remember right, I think she did one already and showed it to me. And she's like, "Is it perfect? Is anything wrong?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, it's good." She's like, "No, what's wrong?" And I was like, "Well, I don't remember what it was, but I'm like, this building wasn't shaped like that." And she just scratched it and did it over again. I was like, made my head hurt, because I'm like, my God, there's so much detail in all the stuff she does. But yeah, so the LX Ranch, the cool thing about the LX Ranch, referencing, we talked about Doc earlier, is the location of of course, we all know when he was there at the LX, he was a postmaster for what they called Wheeler, Texas. Now, that's not to be confused with the current city of Wheeler, Texas. It's a small town here in the Panhandle. At the time, they tried to make a post office there at the LX. They were obviously a huge outfit. They couldn't do that because they weren't an incorporated town or whatever. So they basically just forged the signature and said they were the town of Wheeler getting rights to have a post office there. So if you read the book Blood in the Saddle, Doc was the postmaster of Wheeler, Texas. Well, the site of that original post office, when the ranch was on the north side of the Canadian, is real close to that too. It's actually on the other side of the highway. When we go back and look at that map, it was just on the other side of the highway, probably within 3/4 of a mile of where this ranch house was. So that was another cool little find that we got. So yeah, that's what we find shit. So but yeah, that map, if you pause it at some point in time, you can go to that map, you can scan the QR code. You want to go out there, you can check it out yourself. I don't believe it's on private property. Up the hill to the left of where that star is, there is a home there, but it's separated by fence, and all that runs right along with the Canadian, and that's where everybody does, all their partying at. The side of the ranch is, probably 100 yards off from where all that stuff is, but and there's trails that run all through it. Now you're going to have to probably cross the Canadian. If you have a Jeep or something like that, and the river's low, you can cross it in that. I didn't know how deep the water was, so I literally parked my Jeep on one side of it and just waded through it and to get to the site. So fun times. Our buddy Mike Morrison, you remember Mike? Never met him, right?
I mean, I've heard stories. Yeah.
Heard stories. Yeah, Mike went with me to that one. So anyways, that's all I got, my friend. That's Billy the Kid country for this month. The maps that you see here are exactly what you're going to see in the welcome packet that we send out for the coalition convention coming up. The 5 or 6 sites that we're sharing with everyone will look just like this on a digital format, so people can use these and scan them and find out how to get to it. So this will just give you an idea what to expect in the next couple of days.
Excellent. Well, that formally closes our show for the month, our monthly live. I do want to address that question Mario had. If you have time, that's cool. I don't want to keep you here, Josh. I know you're
I got
time this evening.
Most people don't know my daughter just got married, and now her new family's coming over, and we're getting together. And I'm just running and gunning today, and it's
very selfish of them.
I know. I told them, I was like, "This is priorities," but I was told
this is chasing Billy time.
I know. I've let the fans down. I deeply apologize. On that note, does everybody like my hat? Sorry.
It's a fine hat. BTKHC, Historical Coalition.
Yep. Anyways.
Look at that finely embroidered cap.
It is. So, James, that's all I got. I'm going to get out of here. If you want to cuss and discuss, just don't say too many bad things about me, because I'm going to watch the show later and I'll call you on it. Or you can. I get it.
I'll refrain, but I can't do nothing about this chat.
It is what it is, brother. Guys, I love y'all. We'll talk to y'all again soon. We got more stuff coming up. I'm out.
See you, man.
See you, buddy.
I do want to address real quick before we end the show. Mario asked a question, and we've talked a little about it on the side. He asked why that day, on April 28th, 1881, why did Billy the Kid choose on that day to escape the Lincoln Courthouse, to kill Ollinger and Bell and take off? And sure, there had to be a reason. Of course, he was probably planning on escaping since he got there, looking for an opportunity. So the simple reason could be just that he took the opportunity when it presented himself. Maybe that day was the day that he chose. But it's also very coincidental that April 28th was also the day that an article came out in the Las Vegas newspaper that included an interview with Governor Wallace. And in the interview, Governor Wallace mentions these letters that Billy Bonney had been writing to him, kind of threatening him with revealing something. And Wallace says, "Of course I knew what it was. It's a pardon that he thinks I owe him. He's not gonna get it." He's basically, Wallace said in this newspaper article, he's gonna hang. Well, I was reading something that Wallace was talking about in 1902 or 1900 to a writer. And I shared this with Doss, and we were talking about it, Doss Boot. And when Wallace talks about Billy and when he relates the events of that time of his life, it's always skewed. He's always out of order. In one newspaper article, he says he met Billy the Kid in Santa Fe and not in Lincoln. I mean, it's just all over the place. But it's out of sequence. But at one point, Wallace says in this 1900 article, "I let him know that no pardon was coming to him. I sent him word," or "I sent him the article," even something like that. I'll have to get you the exact wording. But my thought is that somehow Wallace could have sent the kid word at the same time that this article came out that said basically, "You're not getting a thing from me." And that could have been the inciting incident to get him out of there. It just seems too coincidental, and maybe Mario agrees with me on this. It seems too coincidental that on the very day an article comes out where Wallace says there is no chance, there's no hope for Billy the Kid, that's the same day Billy makes his break. He's been in jail in one way or another since December of 1880, and he's got until May 13th to hang. But he chooses that day the same day a Las Vegas newspaper has that interview with Wallace. It seems very coincidental. The issue is we don't know how he could have gotten that newspaper that quickly from Las Vegas. But somehow, I think it's very possible that word got to him that Wallace finally definitively said, there's no hope for you. And that's when the kid made his break. So that's where I'm coming from. Colin, absolutely. The question is how fast papers would be delivered to Lincoln from Las Vegas. Yeah, somehow did word get to him. If it was just reliant on the papers, then there's a probability that he did not get that word, and it's just a crazy coincidence, which history is full of crazy coincidences. But it is wild. It's certainly something to think about. So, anybody else have any observations on that? Yeah, Colin, you're right. And the same day that Wallace says there's no hope for the kid is the same day that Garrett leaves, and it's like, what a perfect storm, intentional or not. Very interesting stuff. Yeah, well, a telegram could have reached Fort Stanton and someone rushed it 9 miles to Lincoln. Maybe that's the case. Yeah, Donna, something to seriously think about. It's very cool. And I do credit Das Boot a lot with this because he brought that to light a lot. And then David Thomas, I believe, mentions it in his book. And it's a good connection. And I like to think about that. But yeah, that was my little epilogue. I just wanted to talk about that. I know me and Mario talked about that during the week prior and wanted to address that. So we'll leave y'all to discuss that amongst yourselves, as Linda says in Tea Time on SNL. And you guys have a good evening. Have a good month. We've got more content coming your way. I've got a lot more ideas I'm working on, and hope to see more of you, and hope you get to see more of us on the channel. So take care. How do you end this thing?
Sit, Ubu, sit. Good dog.
Damn dog.